not just questions. Thank you. So we begin with the Conservatives for Mr. Gourd for 6 minutes. Mr. Kurek for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here. And just to let you know, I will be splitting my time with Mr. Gourd. I'll let him know when that time comes. Minister, when the CEO of CBC, Ms. Tate, and the board appeared before this committee, the board made it clear that they approved of her performance as the CEO of the public broadcaster. But it was also made clear that it is your call whether or not she gets a bonus. My question, when the board made clear that they approve of her performance, do you and will you be planning on awarding Ms. Tate a bonus?
Pour l'instant, je peux dire que la décision n'a pas été prise.
For now, I can tell you that the decision has not been made yet. I'd remind you also that the Privacy Act means that we can't disclose the details of people's pays and contracts. So the decision has not been taken, and we'll continue to look at the issue in light of Ms. Tate's performance.
Thank you very much, Minister. But it has been made clear that both Ms. Tate and the government can be clear there are not privacy laws that prohibit disclosure of this important information that certainly many taxpayers are wanting to know. Minister, will you commit to this committee today to ensure that Ms. Tate does not receive a bonus for this year, and also ensure that she does not receive a generous taxpayer-funded exit package, such as a severance, when she completes her term as CEO of the CBC come January 4th?
Je vous rappelle qu'il y a pas.
I'd remind you that she doesn't have bonuses to start. That's just not how it works. So it's false to say that that possibility exists. And on the other hand, like I just said, the decision has not been made in terms of Ms. Tate's employment. Now, what we can say, what we should remember is that one of the first Harper government did when it took power in 2006 was to significantly increase bonuses by 65% for CEOs and other leaders. So one of the groups that was done for, the Harper government was saying, the interpreter knows that multiple people are taking at the same time.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. Do you know who the highest paid CEO in the history of CBC, the public broadcaster, is? The highest paid CEO in CBC's history. Do you know who that is?
Écoutez, ce que je sais, c'est que
Listen, what I know is that the Conservative government increased bonuses of Huberté Lacroix.
Ms. Catherine Tate, and certainly the board seems to approve of her performance. It appears that you're unwilling to rule out giving her a generous bonus and a generous exit package. Certainly, I think the Canadians demand more respect for their tax dollars.
This is a 5-minute round, and I begin with Mr. Wall for the Conservatives. Kevin, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the Minister for coming today. Minister, you and your department gave an extra $42 million to the CBC earlier this year, and it was, quote, to save journalism. Well, we found out that half of the $42 million went to bonuses. How does bonuses, in your opinion, save journalism? Of the $42 million that you handed over extra to the CBC, while $18 million went to the bonuses. How did it save journalism in this country?
C'est totalement faux.
Well, that's completely false. The government reinvested money after the cuts of $115 million made by the Harper-Poilievre government to ensure that we would be able to maintain our ability to have high-quality journalism throughout the country. And now we all know, for the recent cuts, that there is a media crisis throughout the country. It's more and more the web giants that have money, even on the private sector, for the private media outlets. Now, to ensure the quality...
Minister, you gave an extra $42 million. and it was supposed to help journalism. Instead, it helped with the bonuses. 3.3 million to the executives. The other was spread around. So as a former union rep, a very successful union rep, I might add, what would you have told your members in this situation? They're cutting massively in jobs on the ground, and yet the bonuses went all to executives. So you, as a former union rep, what would you say to this?
Premièrement, je réfute l'affirmation.
First of all, I'm going to refute my colleague's statement that there's massive cuts at CBC Radio-Canada, because that's false. Jobs have been maintained at CBC Radio-Canada. There has been some attrition of some positions, that's all. And all of that is because our government supports CBC Radio-Canada. And if it was for the Conservatives, well, those 8,000 jobs under those cuts would be threatened. So in terms of jobs, as a former union worker, I very much remember what the Conservatives did in terms of job losses at CBC Radio-Canada.
Does this sit well with you as the minister that the rank and file in this case paid the price and the bonuses were giving that your department gave, the extra 42 million, 18 million of that went to the executives? Does that sit well with you today? Trying to save journalism, as you said?
Je suis très fière aujourd'hui en tant que syndicaliste.
I'm very proud as a Minister of Canadian Heritage and former union worker to be fighting so hard each day to prevent the Conservatives from destroying our incredible institution that is nearly 100 years old, that provides so many services to Canadians. Without CBC Radio-Canada, there might no longer be any French outside of Canada, and I will fight against what the Conservatives are trying to do to our public broadcaster.
Minister, very quickly, Tate's tenure at CBC since 2018, is it a success or a failure, knowing today that the viewership is in decline, the ad revenue has plummeted, and the trust in this country on the public broadcaster has declined? So, Tate, your opinion as minister, has it been a success or a failure since 2018? Very quickly.
Tout ce que les conservateurs font, c'est attaquer.
All the Conservatives do is attack individuals to try to get license to destroy an institution. We can disagree on, or you can disagree on some decisions, but the reality is that over half of Canadians each month visit Radio-Canada and CBC and cite it as being a reliable, credible source of information. Not only that, but...
I'm going to share my time with Mr. Couric. Go ahead, Damien.
So allow me, excuse me, Mr. Couric, you are going to only have about 50 seconds. Actually, less than that. So just to let you know. Go ahead.
Just to be clear, Minister, you refused to rule out earlier a big taxpayer bonus to the scandal-plagued jet-setting and recently revealed conflict of interest CEO of CBC, a CEO that makes more than the Prime Minister and more than double your salary as a minister. $18 million went in fat bonuses at a time when Canadians are visiting food banks in record numbers. For the sake of taxpayers and all Canadians that are struggling, let's agree that while we may disagree on the future of CBC, we can agree today to defund bonuses at the public broadcaster. Minister, will you today commit to reject any request for bonuses that ends up on your desk and commit to issuing a cabinet directive of that nature?
Je veux juste rappeler à mon collègue conservateur la...
I just want to remind my Conservative colleague of the Harper Poilievre government's attitude at the time. And now what we heard from the former policy advisor that explained in 2009 in the Policy Options magazine what happened if you were like Hubert Lacroix and a high executive. Well, the more you make cuts, the higher your bonuses. And that really shows what the priorities were. And it recommended that the next government do the same things. She wrote that the Harper government tied ministers' bonuses to how many cuts were made and so on. So I don't want to hear about bonuses being so problematic. And I want to remind people that the Conservatives want to completely defund CBC Radio-Canada. That would lead to the closure.
We've gone over time on that one, guys. You have a little under 3 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the Minister to be here. Just a little reminder of what happened under Jean Chrétien, CBC Radio-Canada. The funding had been cut by over $400 million on $950 million. So that's nearly 45% that was been cut. Just so we remember that when things are tough, everybody's got to do their part. It was 10% under the Conservative government instead of 45. Now, you added money, Minister, to the budget for CBC Radio-Canada, I think $45 million. Is that correct?
Si ma mémoire est bonne.
If my memory
serves, it's 42 million that was in the last budget.
Thank you, Minister. How many employees lost their jobs in the mandatory reworking of all of that since there was a deficit? I think there was a little bit of attrition. I don't have the exact numbers, but I can tell you that there were no massive cuts in the way we saw during under Harper, where over 1,700 people lost their jobs, which had an impact on services across the country. Thank you, Minister. Please send us the exact number of jobs that were cut. Now, in the budget of $18 million, do you think how many jobs could have been saved if that money had been reassigned to employees instead of being sent to bonuses? As you know, it's CBC Radio-Canada that makes those decisions internally, and the government has no regard and rather no control over what happens. You've already asked that question in the past and gotten the answer. Minister, if you could choose only one, CBC Radio-Canada or the interest of Canadians, what would it be? I have asked for that the funding model and the pay model be reviewed, and we expect it to be responsible. Thank you, Minister. Now, the model that will be presented, would that be because it will be presented because of the Conservative Party's pressure? I have no idea what you are referring to when you're talking about the model. I'm talking about the bonuses. You said you wanted to review the payment method.
Monsieur Gourde, your time is up. Thank you.